Hey everybody, we're back here on Inside the Ropes, and I'm joined by Cal Val. Hello.
What an intro. How are you?
I'm good. Now, Cal Val, the So is for South and the Cal is for California.
Yes.
I was trying to think of like another version, and I couldn't. So the closest that I got before we did this was Sotheby's Calinetics Valerie.
That's intense. Clearly you put a lot of thought into that.
A good 40 seconds thought into it, and it didn't really go anywhere.
Don't hurt yourself.
So, you did compliment my microphone before we came on here.
It's
but you know
large and in charge. You know what it is? It's kind of like a Pat Sajak or like a Price is Right, like old school one.
Oh yeah, like a Bob Barker.
Yeah, Bob Barker. Yeah.
See, I know my American things.
Wow.
So we're gonna talk about your career.
He was the 33rd president. No kidding.
See, I know you too well because now I want to say things like, so you've been about wrestling, but that's not like.
Know me. I'm kidding. No, that's terrible. No, but it's a giggle fest because we always just crack up.
Yeah. So I guess the thing is that TNA is like your kind of longest tenured place you've been so far, right?
Yeah, I was there 9 years, so.
So, and we've seen Jeff Jarrett running about here talking to everybody, plays the long game all the time.
Yeah.
And when you first met Jeff and you went to TNA, it was a very different place because at that point, there wasn't a stigma about TNA that would become later on.
Yeah.
When you got there, what was your initial impressions of TNA and what you thought it might become, or?
Well, I was actually at a show at the Asylum, and that was a whole other feel. That was very southern, I would say. Like they even like the place they ate at was like called something funny, like the Shack or something. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, I was at that one, and it was very homegrown. It was getting a lot of traction. Then when they came to Orlando, I've lived in Orlando most of my life, but I was actually still living in LA and kind of flying back and forth, seeing if they'd give me a chance, really. And then the shows got a lot more polished. We were on Fox Sports Net, and then eventually Spike TV. Spike TV were the best years. I mean, everyone knows that pretty much. And I think having a big network behind you, it's going to be your best years, really. But yeah, there was a lot of different evolutions. I mean, being there 9 years, I also started there when I was 18 years old, so I really grew up somewhat. I technically grew up in the company, but to say I'm a grown-up now is, we both know the truth.
But I mean, that must be tough for you in a way because I'm trying to think about how to say this in the nicest way.
You're old.
It's worse than that.
I just said to someone that I said I'm just like Dickie Davies and we look the same, and I got a little bit of a pop.
Tiny. But I do want to say, when you're 18, an 18-year-old girl going into a wrestling company, I mean, it's like, that's an intense situation to be put into. How do you kind of like get to grips with the fact that, in wrestling people are working you all the time, or like, if somebody says something to you, there's maybe like 5 different reasons they're telling you something. There's a lot to figure out, and if you're 18, that's going to be tough to try and...
18, yes, but like I have a very independent, like strong mother, and I think I get this from her where I'm kind of like, I kind of know what people are about pretty early on. And men are a simple being. You heard it here first. I'm not trying to, he's already laughing, so that's good. Not trying to offend your gender. But, you see wrestlers in the back and you see, promoters and stuff. Promoters will be and wrestlers too. People came at me in different ways. Like, it was either very condescending, like, oh, you're cute trying to be in wrestling, or it was like, oh, who's this chick just here to, like, meet the wrestlers. I'm like, honey, don't flatter yourself, okay?
Feel free to give us any examples of anybody who was patronizing
I'm trying to a lot of people were very, a lot of the girls were very condescending. It was kind of like, oh, Val, well, and it kind of went on for years, like, oh, well, Val, you'll see. And it was like, because I was really young. And then a lot of the girls, I was getting into girl stuff, a lot of the girls eventually kind of like, they got married, they tried to settle down, and I was still in my 20s, and they're like, oh, well, you're going to get boring when you're married and you're older. And I thought, well, that sounds like your problem. Like, I'm having fun. And, and the guys, of course, wrestlers will usually hit on you because you're a girl and you have female parts, I just wanted to say that.
Why do you tap me there? You have female parts.
I was trying to find the funniest way to say it to make you weirded out. I got myself weirded out. No, but they're going to hit on you, and they either, they either do the thing where it's like a little boy pulling your pigtails at the playground, where they try to act like, they try to put you down and like see if they can get the best of you with like jokes and put downs, and you kind of have to just have a thick skin and not really sell it, as we say in the biz, on the loops that we do. Anyway, or they're just blatantly hitting on you and you're like, okay, ew, no, I'm not there for that reason. And I think it did take a while for me to kind of be taken seriously, A, because I'm a girl and I wasn't there for the reasons that some people thought I was, and B, because I was young. So I think eventually people went, oh, they might have misjudged me in the beginning, but they were like, she's stuck around and she's lasted in this business and in this company for 9 damn years, so she must be here for the right reasons and she must be a professional. So.
And Jeff Jarrett, we mentioned him earlier, like he was there when you got your start.
Yeah.
He's gone through some troubles and stuff like that. And Nick Aldis had kind of said publicly, he wanted to give him a second chance because he'd been so influential.
Wasn't that magnanimous of Nick to post that online? That was so silly. I don't know why he did that. It was stupid.
Nice of him to put it publicly, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was stupid. I love Nick, the loserweight champion. No, he's one of my best friends, honestly, but I don't know why I posted that. I thought that was kind of... I'm really weird about posting personal stuff online, though. I kind of feel like...
You just post GIFs.
I just express myself through GIFs, really. But no, I don't love a lot of that. Like, if there's heat or there's like something, keep it between y'all and just be professional, be positive. I don't know.
It's a great thing to say in an interview.
It is indeed. But the thinking ahead, 40 seconds. But no, I don't like getting too personal online. Jeff's, stuff like that. All I've ever known Jeff to be is a professional and super, super great at what he does.
What I was going to ask you,
nice guy. Yeah.
What I was going to ask you about it was, even though he's had this stuff that he's had the last couple of years, he is kind of, getting back to where he was before. And I guess when you were with him in TNA, can you talk a little bit about working for Jeff and the kind of boss that he was and kind of you guys in the trenches together?
He's a little elusive, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think he just is one of those guys that doesn't try to be best friends with everybody, which we had a boss that did try to be best friends with everybody, Dixie Carter, and that's not always the best approach, to be fair. Like, I think you have to have a bit of professionalism and mystique in terms of you are the boss, and I think Jeff was always really good at that, at commanding. He had a very commanding presence, but always still very nice and helpful when he needed to be. So I thought that was a nice juxtaposition of both. I remember he was actually on the ring working something out with somebody, and I had to go give him my contract physically for him to sign. I thought that was kind of funny that I had to give it to him. Thanks, sir, for the job. Continue. And he was great. And I think that that's something that Dixie Carter might have been different in her approach, that she kind of was trying to be very inclusive with everybody. And I think, to be honest, if you're in that position of power, that can kind of be your downfall sometimes.
And was there a moment or a night or a period of time when you realized, like, TNA is really, like, we've got something here. Like, we're now, like, we're big.
I'm trying to think of when. I think the Spike TV deal was the biggest moment. I think when, like, Kurt Angle showed up, I'll never forget the Ric Flair promo happening. I was, at ringside watching when the video was aired, and it was just like, when these big stars started to come over, it was like, wow, we're really onto something. And then, in my opinion, what kind of got weird is it was like a few big stars came, and it was like, this is kind of, validation, and, but then it became a thing where everybody in the world, everybody and their mom's dog walker who had worked for WWE was brought into TNA and acted like they were Ric Flair. I never understood that. I never understood why it was almost a guaranteed contract with TNA when you were released from WWE. I don't think that's the way to go. I never agreed with that at all.
Somebody who is a controversial figure in wrestling is Vince Russo, and he was involved with TNA for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think this is just my personal opinion to kind of lead into what I was going to ask you about it. My issue more with Vince is about, he is the first person to tell you about the successes that he had, but does not want to admit some of the kind of shortcomings that he had in his career as well. And I think that's what people maybe find difficult about, like,
kind of funny, to be honest. I like when people are stubborn and they're like, what do you mean I failed at something? Like, no, I didn't. I kind of appreciate that about
WCW did well.
Yeah, why not?
What was your experience like with him as a person, as a kind of working relationship?
Really great. And this is the thing too, and you'll understand what I'm saying here, I hope. When somebody has all this, like, this stuff being said about them and they have this reputation, I hear all of that, and I kind of, sometimes I can kind of go, okay, I see it. When somebody says, somebody has an attitude, you kind of see it. But to be honest, you have to take everything at face value, and if someone was never that way to you, it's like, doesn't matter to me, I just have to work with them. And Vince Russo was always nothing but really, really cool to me. He'd come in the room and just kind of like, all right, and we'd hear him coming from like a mile away, just slow clap, ready to come in there. He was in charge of many of the situations with Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt and I, and he was great. He let us have creative input, which I thought was really nice. He was up for a laugh. When we wanted to make something kind of silly, it ended up getting over really well, like the hot tub stuff. He loved that kind of stuff, and he was lighthearted about it. So to me, I have nothing but great things to say. I was on his podcast one time, and he was really, really professional and great. So yeah, I've had nothing but great things to say about him. And it's funny because to go back to some things in TNA too, like, a lot of people will have a lot of things to say about Hogan and Bischoff. I have nothing but super, super positive things to say. They were, some of the most professional people I've ever worked with. They took me aside and said, like, I remember Bischoff one time, it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me in terms of, like, being appreciated, especially in Impact. Because, I was kind of ring girl for like 16,000 years, I believe it was. So it was nice to kind of have appreciation. Like, one time he pulled me aside and said, Val, I don't know if anyone told you this, but, like, I see how hard you work and how you're the first one here, the last to leave, and you're changing your outfits and you're professional and you always have a smile on your face. I just wanted to let you know I appreciate that. And I was like, I got a little emotional, and I was like, well, that's really nice to hear, because I didn't hear that a lot, and I don't need praise all the time, but it was something where I did feel kind of, not suffocated, but very, held down a bit by the ring girl thing for so many years. I kept trying to do other things and break out of it, and it didn't really happen for me. So to know I was appreciated at doing all of the other stuff that was the internet presenting and writing my own scripts and things that the fans saw that were diehard fans, but in terms of like the live show and being featured on TV, I wasn't. So I thought that was really cool that he took his time to say that. Hogan did the same thing, and they were always on time, never an attitude, never even a drop of pretension from either one of them. And I can't say the same for other guys that were difficult to do interviews with, and seemed bothered by it a lot, and some days they'd be cool, some days they wouldn't. Storm and Austin Aries. It's the thing is I don't mention names, and that's what I think is nice about me, personally.
I agree.
I love those guys, but they can be difficult as hell. It can be great Storm or great Austin Aries, or one day it can be like grumpy and terrible.